Board of Education, I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. If there are no objections from the board, in order for the board to stay in compliance with session law SL 2021-130, tonight's agenda will be amended to discuss a COVID update and math resolution. This item will be placed under the superintendent's report, which will be placed after public comments. This time, would you please join me for the?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to request that we move that up further in the agenda after the recognition section. If we could, do we need to make a motion to amend the agenda? Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we amend the agenda, actually until further notice, to include a report from the superintendent on COVID-related matters to immediately follow the recognition section of our regular agenda each month.
Recognition section, correct?
Sorry?
Recognition section.
Right after the recognition section, yes, sir.
Got a motion, do I have a second? Second, is there any discussion?
Yeah. If we do that, we won't be able to hear from the public.
Perhaps we could have a public comment section just related to that if we were going to take any action. The reason why I proposed moving it back to the recognition section was it's pretty obvious, at least to me, that this matter is of great concern to a lot of people in the community, and a lot of the other things that we covered throughout the rest of the meeting aren't necessarily things that they want to stick around for. So I thought if we could move it up to the front, we could cover any of that information and then move on with the rest of the meeting, where the chairman could release people if they wanted to go.
I mean, I see what you're saying. I just think comment in the past meetings were that we hear public comment before we vote, so we're trying to respect that.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chairman, I have a quick question about the procedure. If we're discussing a particular matter, we don't stop, wait for public comment, and then vote on the matter, do we? Or is it proper procedure to postpone action until after public comment? I'm just trying to make a reasonable.
Be a question for Mr. Lowry.
On the issue, you're only required to have a vote once a month according to the governor. There's no requirements that you have to have a public information before that vote. You are required to have a public comment section in your meeting. But where you put that is up to you. It's not required for this particular matter.
Is it?
The issue that you're referring to.
I mean, I think this is only relevant for maybe the next couple months. But I just, out of respect for everybody who comes to the meetings, I just thought it would be nice to take the matter up first after the recognition section.
I really do right now. If we're gonna do something actionable, we have to notify the public.
I'm sorry, what?
If we're gonna do something actionable, we have to notify the public 10 days or 5. I thought I saw something in the statute where it's gonna be an actionable thing, they have to. So, how about
If
public
you're
forum?
gonna take that vote, not at this meeting, but at another meeting, you can call a special meeting to do that. But it's my understanding, you're gonna take a vote at this meeting. So whether you do it before the public comments or after, that's up to y'all. You're not, what I said, is you're not required to have public comment before you take that vote. Simply required to take a vote before you take the vote. But I understand that his issue is he wants public comment before the vote. But the issue is whether you do that or not. You're not bound by any rule of law to do that for that vote for this issue.
It seems like to me that there is not very much on our agenda tonight. I mean, if you're wanting to, to move this along or something, but I could be wrong, but it doesn't look like that there was a long field agenda. So I don't see why we just don't leave it so we can hear the public. I think that's the thing, we want to hear the public be able to speak. If we move this the way you have said, we will not hear the public.
Then I withdraw my motion that was not the intent. The intent was essentially just to cover this first, but maybe we can revisit if we have a longer agenda in the future, we can rearrange things.
I don't think we're
So,
going very long.
okay. I withdraw the motion.
This time, if you can join me for invitation, please. That's great, Mr. Father, thank you for letting and caring for us tonight. We ask your blessings upon us, Lord, for discernment, wisdom, guidance, direction, in your name. Amen. And for joining me for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the United States. Chair, we're taking a motion, the closed session for personnel matters. We're going to general statute 143, 1186, student matters, general statute 143, 1181, attorney-client matters, general statute 143, 1183.
Make the motion, go to closed session.
Motion by Mr. Petty, is there a second? Second by Mr. Sorensen, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, closed session. And we're going Okay, back into open session. This time, Dr. Dennis, I believe you have a special recognition.
I do, thank you.
Chairman Chance, members of the board, I would like to take this time to recognize an outstanding group of educators and staff from the Oakboro STEM School. They were celebrated on September the 2nd at 9 a.m. at the State Board of Education meeting and were recognized as a North Carolina STEM School of Distinction, which is a highly, as far as the hard work and all that goes into it, it's a very prestigious award to be awarded to the school. There's not many in the state, and there were only 3 schools recognized on that day. And to hear Oakboro STEM's name, it was quite an honor. And it's just, we should show a lot of gratitude to the dedication that it took for this group to attain that level of distinction. So thank you. You were saying. William Brown, Mr. Crawford, was there to thank you for all your hard work and dedication, and thank you for all you do for our children.
Tom, just go there about, to make any comments you want to make, about what recognition.
Already here, Patty. First of all, thank you, all of you. Thank you. Praise God. You make us all very, very impressed. And I can say this, I'm impressed, but I still say this Snyder. But I remember when you went to open, and Ms. Watson will remember that we took tour some STEM schools, and we talked back home about sliding into the D for us to have our very first STEM school in Salem County. We had a prominent teacher and retired teacher in the community and his wife that spoke with us quite a bit about this. And Ms. Dombrowski, you've been there, Ms. Snyder, from the start, from the get-go. And just look at the accomplishment. That's amazing. I think about this. I watch the students. Is it Mr. Wade? And the others. Who was I just about to? That's okay. I'm quite an honor, to represent Salem County School. I also think about this. I know that your STEM school focuses with everyone. When I say everyone, I'm talking about female and male students. For me, I always look at it that it's great that we have girls that are so interested in science and math and engineering. We certainly have our guys that so I appreciate your enthusiasm that you bring out these children, the desire to want to investigate, to solve their problems. And I know that they are going to be the leaders of tomorrow and hopefully solve our problems. Because we certainly have a lot that they need to solve. And we're accountable. Whether you are a teacher, assistant, your administration. You are staff person, professional, you are office worker, that's what you mean. Everybody has a heart in overarching thing, and the people to is the community. And that community has rallied around you like none other from the start. So that's what I wanted to say, Chairman Chance. Thank you. What a great honor that you were to stand up to school. Keep up that. Thank you.
I just wanted to, again, congratulate all of the staff, parents, and students. First, on the, award that you guys received. It was very nice to, hear the two students speak and, get to see them talk about their school and how, Ober has impacted their learning and their education. And we do, appreciate all the hard work that the community and the school and the parents and all the staff have put into, checking off the things that it takes to get this, award. So congratulations.
I would just like to say it's the community. We've got the teachers, the principal, we've got all the administration, but the main thing is the families. Because these students didn't achieve what they got by the teachers doing it all. When they come home, the parents have to encourage them to learn and do their schoolwork and such as that. So I'd like to also commend the community and the parents, because without that, it's not going to work. Teachers can do it all. It's a big congrats for a small place to get the honor they've gotten. And all the schools in Stanley County can do just as well. We just need to make sure that our community stands behind them.
Yeah, from this as well, real quick, just coincidentally, saw an article today, video of Chinese governments on billions that are spent around. And if you look at what they're trying to do, I think it goes down a lot. Because in about 20, 30 years, once you think about it, kids will need to learn STEM skills, marketable skills, we need to learn Mandarin Chinese. I had all y'all. One last one, though, we took a robotics demonstration out a few years ago. And the kids there spoke robots, spoke electronics. I'm not talking about middle school kids as well, some also impressed that again. I know them, for you guys.
I too would like to congratulate you, Oakboro is a good place to live and a good place to have your children educated. And I thank you for all that you have done to make this possible. Everyone there is, everyone, like all the businesses are coming in and helping you all, and it helps, and I know that helps a lot. That you all are there to do this and to get this with the children, and I do appreciate that very much.
Chairman Chance, I just wanted to say to Ms. Dombrowski and the entire staff, congratulations. I was there when you guys first reopened. And I want to congratulate the board who had the foresight when they reopened Oakboro Elementary School to open up as a choice STEM school, because one of the things the school system has to do is provide as many opportunities for different student needs as possible and family needs as well. So I know that it's fulfilled a lot of different roles for many different families within the community. And I know there's kids in school today in Stanley County schools because they have overall a choice STEM school to go to. So thank you for getting this recognition so quickly. So good job to everyone.
Congratulations as well. Job well done, and certainly great recognition to all three schools in the state to recognize your accomplishments. The flowers on the seats are for those of you who are there, please take the videos. Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda and approval of minutes for the August 3rd special fall meeting, August 3rd regular meeting, and the August 17th special fall meeting minutes. Any corrections to those minutes? If not, then thank you. Motion on this, Gibson, for second, on the Blossom special. Any other things that are second? Yeah, certainly, those of you all want to leave, please feel free to do so. You don't start anything in front of you. Thank you. So we have a vote today. And here we vote on the minutes. So all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Any reports and motion? Do something.
We did meet, the instructional committee on August 26th at 3:30. There's several things you have in your packet, and I know that I'm not going to read over all of that with you. I just wanted to highlight a couple things that we spoke about. I know that Dr. Lewis in a few minutes, she's going to present to you, addressing how Stanley County Schools is going about bridging that learning gap for our elementary and our secondary programs. She presented this to us, very informative, so I know she's going to go over that in a few minutes. The other thing that we have requested of Dr. Amy White Lewis is that we visit our AIT program, especially our program in the middle school. And we have requested that we visit Harris County because of their strong AIT program that they have in their schools. We also brought to Dr. Amy White Lewis's attention and Dr. Dennis that we would love to see if there was some way that we could involve our teachers in a consortium with other teachers, or whether it's other surrounding counties, so that we are able to get more of our teachers licensed in the area of AIT, in that area of math and reading. And also, I know that I believe Dr. Amy White Lewis may mention to all of us in a little bit in her presentation. It goes along with bridging that gap of what we are doing for our students now who may be quarantined and how they are receiving instructions. I know that high school teachers wanted some extra training. I believe Dr. Amy White Lewis, the area of board works that we approved. They may have some other questions as well. These were especially our teachers in high school. They were our ELA teachers. So I know that we're bringing our committee just to make sure that these teachers are met, when they have their PLCs, whatever, when you're able to reach out to them with that extra training. That's all I have.
Thanks. Philippines, Mr. Craig.
We didn't have a facilities committee meeting, but I did reach out to Todd Bowers. I had a number of teachers reaching out to me about the HVAC, the air conditioning situation. The first week of school, it was very hot. And I just wanted to make sure that all the teachers and staff knew that the facilities team under Todd Bowers did make adjustments and extend the air conditioning later into the day. But one thing that's very important to understand, and we've had a situation, and this is one of the issues coming back to full-time in-person in-school instruction, is even though we have more teachers and students back, there is an expectation that everyone get out of the school by a certain time so that they can do the same disinfecting procedures that they were doing last year. So even though they have extended that, the reason I'm bringing this up is that I believe that all of the teachers have been advised of this. If they haven't, then please contact your principal and have them contact the central office so that we can address any issues there may be meetings that are happening after normal class time that people aren't aware of. And Mr. Bowers wanted to make sure that any situation where the school was heating up too early was taken care of. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Finance resource, that was very important. Personnel, Ms. Watson.
No report, but, I would like to welcome Dr. Keisha upon here. She's new with us, and we're glad to have her.
Policy committee met on September the 2nd, and, we have a list of policies for final approval, some to be tabled and some to be rescinded, so I'll go ahead and read this now. Policy 3000, goals and objectives of the educational program, policy 3100, curriculum development, 3101, dual enrollment, new policy 3102, online instruction, policy 3110, innovation in curriculum and instruction, policy 3115, curriculum and instruction guide, policy 3120, lesson planning, new policy 3130, grouping for instruction, policy 3135, homework, new policy 3140, evaluation of instructional program, policy 3200, selection of instructional materials, policy 3210, parental inspection of and objection to instructional materials, policy 3220, technology in the educational program, policy 3300, full calendar of comfort learning, policy 3320, school trips, policy 3330, moment of silence are policy for final approval.
So have been taken for 30 days and are now up. So we vote, all those in favor approve the policies as presented, please say. This came out of the meeting, no second. So is there any discussion on the policy? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And those policies are approved. We have both policies.
Yes, one's to be tabled for 30 days tonight, a policy 3400, evaluation of student progress, 3405, students at risk of academic failure, 3410, testing and assessment program, 3430, school improvement plan, new policy 3431, conflict resolution, policy 3440, recognizing excellence, policy 3450, five ranking, policy 3510, religious-based exemption from school program, policy 3515, religion in the schools, policy 3515-R, religion in the schools, policy 3520, special education programs, rights of students with disabilities, policy 3530, citizenship and character education, policy 3540, comprehensive health education program, new policy 3565/8307, Title I, comparability of services, policy 3610, counseling program, policy 3620, extracurricular activities and student organization, policy 3640, 5130, student voter registration and pre-registration are the ones to be tabled for 30 days.
Further policy, take 30 days. Off the table. next meeting and, but,
Sorry. Policy 1015, goals and objectives. Policy 2040-D, hardware, software, infrastructure. Policy 3020, accreditation. Policy 3025, instructional resources. Policy 3030, school year school calendar. 3035, school day. 3045, curriculum development. 3055, classroom interruptions. 3060, scheduling for instruction. 3070, lesson plan. 3075, computer technology instruction. 3080, academic freedom. 3087, moment of thought, pledge allegiance. 3090, community instructional resources. 3110, innovation in curriculum and instruction. 3115, homework. 3180, related to student assisting community college. 3189, media and technology. 3190, complaint concerning curriculum or instructional material. 3320, school trip. 4175, student social events, and 8001, technology educational program are all ones that were extended. That's all.
any questions for some? Ma'am? Next, snap, up the cameras. Legislative resource.
Little was.
The first.
I thought we did. Yeah, yeah. You did.
Yes, I have no report.
Curriculum instruction, Dr. Brandon Lumley's.
Just want to make sure everyone can hear me okay. Okay. With permission, Ms. Gibson did reference some things in the instructional report, and I think she wants a little more information shared with the general board. So, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'll add just a few comments to that. The first thing, in your packet, you'll see a document. It's a color-coded document. This was shared at the instructional committee meeting. It does just provide an outline of the different programs that we are implementing in response to the learning gaps. And you'll see that they are aligned with the MTSS model, the multi-tier system of support for students. Tier 1, meaning 80 to 100% of our students are included in that. That's just your general instructional practice. But we know that there will always be some students that do not respond to that first tier of instruction. And so we do what we call the first level of intervention, which is tier 2. And you'll see the programs that we have in place to address that. And then finally, there will be those students who need intensive interventions, and that is tier 3. And so you'll see those programs referenced there. The one document is for elementary, the other is for secondary. And I would be happy to address any questions that you may have regarding that. Hearing none, I will go ahead. The next piece that Ms. Gibson asked me to address was regarding AIG. I would like to share that we have received invitation to be part of a grant through Johns Hopkins University with an AIG specialist who will be on loan to us for a 3-year period. He will assist us in rewriting our plan because this is the final year of our current AIG plan. And then he will also be with us for a 3-year period to assist with its implementation. So I'm happy to report that. The other piece that I am on the agenda to talk about is the instructional protocol for quarantine students. In your packet, it is a 3-column document, multicolored, and it starts with pre-K elementary, middle, and then high. This is the instructional protocol that was developed from your CNI team regarding when students have to be quarantined and how we would approach their instruction during that quarantine time. So we looked at 4 areas, the first being communication. What is the expectation for teacher communication with parent and or student during that time of quarantine? The instructional delivery, how will we provide the instruction? Assessments, if any, are to be given during that time of quarantine. What is the process for that? And then finally, grading. How will grades be taken during a period of quarantine? And so you can see that we have mapped that out for elementary, middle, and for high school. And I'm happy to entertain any questions you may have about that document.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure.
Would you mind, just reviewing that as far as with pre-K and elementary, middle school and high school, there's 3 different columns here. We had up on the screen. And first, correct me if I'm wrong, but this went out 2 weeks ago
It did.
to all the principals in the county. It was resent last week. to all the
Correct.
principals. Okay. In other words, all the teachers should have this as well. What you're
Should
about
be
to go over.
informed of this, yes.
So you mentioned there's 4 rows here: communication, instructional delivery, assessments, and grading. Would you, and if any other board member wants to review additional information, I'd like you just to review the instructional delivery for pre-K, elementary, middle school students, and high school students. And again, this is for students who are quarantined.
Certainly, as far as instructional delivery, we decided that work packets would be most beneficial for students at the pre-K and elementary level. So those should be provided weekly to students on quarantine. Middle and high school are identical, but since we do continue our access with the Canvas course, teachers are to maintain the Canvas course and post assignments there for quarantine students. If a Polycom system is available, and this is a Polycom system, if the Polycom system is available, and there are some in each school site, we ask that the teacher stream or record their lesson, and the student can access that remotely. However, we recognize that EC students may be better served by print information, and so we've given the latitude for that to be done for any of our EC students.
Thanks, for that. And just for clarification, I was told that the pre-K and elementary, the reason why you're recommending the packets is because even though there's almost a 1-to-1 technology ratio in grades 3 through 5 and K through 2, the technology, all of the hardware is backordered. And so you're treating all of K-5 equally the same. And then second to that, so I wanted to note that for people wondering why maybe we weren't doing the digital, and of course, there's an age issue as well. But also the middle school and high school categories, it says that if a Polycom system is available at the school, the teacher will stream, not may stream, will stream or record his or her lessons, and the student will access it remotely. If they don't have the Polycom though, you are asking them to record the lessons with their laptop. It's just, you can't do real-time remote easily with the Polycom, or without the Polycom, is that correct?
That is correct. This is a better video and sound quality.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Any other questions from board members regarding the protocol for quarantine students?
I would like to note the communication time, for the public that's here, that the teachers for pre-K, elementary, middle, and high, the teacher will communicate with the parent by email or phone at least every 3 days to address questions.
Yes, that is correct. The difference being at the elementary level, the teacher is just required to communicate with the parent by email and by phone. But at the middle and high school level, we ask that communication be with parent and student. Yes, absolutely.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, elementary, I'm understanding correctly, pre-K, elementary. And their quarantine is receiving packet instruction.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are any of our elementary teachers recording their lessons where students can take part in that, and we're gonna record the lesson, they don't understand even more about
We do have some elementary teachers who are tech savvy and do have that capacity to do so. I'm not aware of anyone that has reported to me that they are actively doing that, but it would not surprise me if that is the case.
Is that something, Dr. Ennis, that I'm not meaning to put more work on teachers, but if our teachers have an understanding of having to report, and I'm really only focusing on reading and math. I mean, I understand we've got other areas, but I'm really focusing on reading and math. And I'm thinking about, we're trying to bridge this gap in learning that we lost. So can our elementary teachers, even though it's shocking what they do, to have accessible the reading and the math for the students that are on quarantine, that they can see it before.
Well, what I can, have a meeting with the principals, so we can bring that up as a topic, see what, that's all that, put that out.
The next item that I have on the agenda does require action. It is just a contract and service agreement for auditory verbal speech language services, and it does require board approval. So I'll give you just a moment to take a look at that, and then I will need approval. Yes, ma'am.
Or this person, I'm assuming person or person,
It is an agency, yes, that has multiple providers, yes.
have they, we're contracting with them, have we not started these services yet, or are we waiting for board approval in order for us to start these services?
With this particular company, yes, we're waiting for board approval on this particular company, but we have multiple providers that we have to contract with to provide the concurrent services. So this is just one of many that we do contract with.
Well, I'm going to approve the contract and service agreement. With our new-
Motion. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Holland, any discussion?
Sure.
Yes.
You see this, their services already, they haven't started it.
No, this
They don't
company
agree.
has not, but we have multiple groups that we contract with for speech language because speech language pathologists are very difficult to find. So this is just
Just a
one
new
of
addition.
multiple agencies we use, yes.
Thank you.
First, second,
Those-
hearing none, all those in favor, approve, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item is personnel administration student services, Dr. Keisha Collins.
She doesn't have it, you just need to approve it.
Okay. We just need to approve section two, personnel amendment. As it's presented, is there any
Approve.
second to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Second, and is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the second to personnel amendment, say aye. Those opposed, no. Services.
I have nothing to report, but I just do want the board to still be aware that we do not have a state budget at this time presently. And that from notification I received in an email today was it could be as late as October.
Okay, I was under the impression that the House had approved a number budget, but apparently that's not the case either.
Not to my knowledge, it hasn't, other than the email I have received.
All right, very good. Next are public comments. on the list this evening, in importance policy 2310, public participation at board meetings, each month. First part of each one regularly scheduled board meeting set aside for citizens to address the board through public comment. Each speaker will receive 3 minutes, to present comments. However, the public comment session will not exceed 15 minutes, total set by majority vote. So at this time, our first speaker is Levi Green.
My name is Levi Green. I'm the father of 3 Stanley County school students. See if you can get it up. Stretch it up. Okay, this doesn't count against my 3 minutes. All right. So my name is Levi Green. I'm the father of 3 Stanley County school students on the back row there. I want to discuss this evening very briefly critical thinking. According to the CDC data, as of August 30th, and since COVID-19 pandemic tracking began, 39.3 million Americans have contracted the virus. 4.04 million infections were in children's ages 0 to 17. In all of America, 361 deaths of children 0 to 17 are attributed to this virus. That's a survival rate of 99.991. What I simply do not and cannot understand regarding the masking of our children stems from one simple question. Who are you, the school board, trying to protect? You say it's for the children, but that argument doesn't hold any water. Accidents, including automobile, drownings, falls, even sports injuries, accounted for 5,029 deaths in our school-age children in 2019. That's a third of all the deaths. What actions will you, as the school board, immediately take to curb and eradicate accidents? Will you mandate remote schools so that our kids aren't exposed to the dangers of riding in cars or on buses? Will you mandate a ban on swimming? You could cancel all the sports. Suicide killed 2,704. Suicide. They don't even measure it in the 5-year-olds. They start at 10. They start at 10, 2744. What immediate actions are you, the school board, going to take to save our children from mental illness and suicide? Do masks help a child's sense of self-worth? Do masks promote socialization and squash feelings of isolation that so many children have? If your actions are not materially protecting our kids, then who is being protected? Notice, I never once said COVID is not a threat. I said it's not a material threat to our children. CDC data for the state of North Carolina covering 2020 and year-to-date 2021 shows 12% of individuals over the age of 65 who died with COVID. For deaths of individuals aged 40 to 49, it's 7%, and for the 50 to 64 demographic, it's 9%. Are you, the board, putting this emotional, physical, and mental toll of mass on our children for the good of the children? Or are these mandates there for the safety of adults who are fully capable of assessing risk and executing their own mitigation strategies? God tells us many times in his word, do not fear. Does that mean we should blindly walk out in front of an oncoming train expecting our Lord to save us from imminent harm? In my belief, that is taunting God. But when a risk as small as COVID is to our children controls their very lives and puts them in fear of the unknown, fear of others, and fear of death, you have actively disobeyed God's word. At the very least, you are hypocrites. COVID children is effectively 0. Prove me wrong with data. Critical thinking escapes you somehow, then there's only one thing for you to do. Resign. Resign. Why did you do this stuff? Fine. Or please finish up. I'm finishing. Unfit for this position, unfit to lead, and you do not have the best interest of our children at heart. I'm fine. You can't let them do the right thing. I'm not quite as tall as the first of you, so. All right, so some of these stats are going to be rehashed from the previous speaker, so it seems that he and I both consulted the CDC recently. I pulled these numbers right before, and as he stated, I'm here today to talk to you about masking our kids, and talking to you with real data. I'm happy to provide links to anyone who would like to look for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Approximately 400 pediatric deaths related to COVID from January 2020 to September 1st, 2021. 400. Overall pediatric deaths, 54,771. 99.3% of children that died from something else unrelated to COVID. As the previous speaker mentioned, thousands from suicide that are no doubt being exacerbated by the forced isolation, the forced masking. There's dozens and dozens of studies that continue to show a high anxiety and high depression in kids. That's a cost that comes with this. And I've yet to see a single study that claims how effective masks are. Consider confounding variables and or the collateral damage. By confounding variables, I mean success from something else unrelated to the mask. We say masks work, but we don't consider what else might be contributing to it. Well, yeah, if I stand 100 feet away from someone, that's probably playing a role in it. But we're attributing it all to the mask. And collateral damage, we're not considering the cost. We're not considering the suicide. There's not a single study out there that's doing that, that's taking all these things into account, saying, do we care what it costs to do this to our kids? It's a silly example, but I can guarantee that I might have a car accident in my vehicle on the way home. If I light my car on fire right now for the duration of this meeting and do not have one to travel home, I will not be in a car accident in my vehicle. I will also not have a car. I will not be able to take my kids to school anymore. I will not be able to travel to work. It's going to take me a long time to get back to my 30-minute what was a drive. It's going to be a lot further along. The other thing that I'm seeing is nonstop virus statistics. The positivity rate that we use is based on folks getting tested, which is by sample right off the bat. Who's more likely to get tested? Folks that don't feel well. Folks that have come in contact with someone else who is positive. This is not a general representation of your population. Our hands are tied, what I keep hearing from this board, and like the first speaker, my plea to you is to resign if that's the case, because there are those do what's right, because let me tell you, throughout history, doing what's right has directly conflicted with what is allowed. And when they mandate vaccines, your hands are tied. Kids can't be in class if they're not vaccinated. They've got to quarantine. They're going to do the same thing, and your hands are going to be tied the same. Now is the time to stand up. It is my job to protect my kids' well-being. If this is not fair, then we shouldn't be doing it. This is not their job to protect me. If someone came in here and opened fire, I'm not going to use my kid as a shield. And in the same way, they shouldn't be a shield here. If I preserve one aspect of my children's physical health, and it costs me their mental health, their spiritual health, their emotional health, I didn't win. I didn't get to these kids. That's why I implore you. If you don't want to stand up, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to not want to stick your neck out. I promise you, this room's full of people that are ready to stick their neck out.
If that's you, if you're here only to further your political career and not a center for kids, then do it somewhere else other than on the school board. Thank you.
I'm not sure the first name, John Ledbetter.
So I want to be quite as passionate as these guys do. I'm sure of it. The first thing I'm going to ask is, the lady that had a chart stating what the teachers would do for our kids in quarantine, if I could get a copy of that, I'd really appreciate it. I got 3 kids at home right now. They're failing school because they're in quarantine. They're getting no instruction from teachers. My wife is seeing numerous emails, I'm getting no response back. And I got kids in quarantine. So I came to the last school board meeting.
Could you tell me which school that is?
That's West Area High School, yeah. So I came to the high school for a meeting, and I was told by everybody, for student C, the word of names, like they were supposed to. It was good, they didn't children. It didn't make the human beings of student B had COVID, because they said, oh, this year, we don't have to fund it for a local area. That's not true. They told them, said, oh, they. But, so it's not. We're making our rules as we go. I'm just happy about it. I'm just happy about it. I got the family who are on their 20 minute lunch break. You got 13 minutes to eat your lunch. 4 minutes like this aside where you can spend the last 7 hours. So if you get a look at the person that eat lunch, you can't eat this. And you got kids sitting in school and then you get 13 minutes to eat, it's not right. So I keep that paper, so I can verify who I need to hold a kid with the West Side High School. The making up of rules as we go is not acceptable in my book. I would also like to know if somebody can tell me what happens or what happens or not. Because all I saw was they didn't have the face cover and it covers the mouth and the nose the entire time they're at school or on public transportation. My kids have been threatened to be kicked off the bus because their mask is failing or their mask broke. One more time, they're kicked off the bus. According to the toolkit, they can't be punished. But I'm told. It's not, it's not, your best said, you can't read it. Why? It's a picture. Here, let me hold it up. This is what it is. I don't, the honest, I think the mask is stupid. I don't support it. Not working. No. That's very bad. But now everybody here, this thing, it's horrible. So it's still me. What mask is the last? Let me get a paper so I can hold somebody to kill them. Or, it's not. See it done. Somebody just hit this and I do the works. I mean, you told us last month, A and C could stay at school, they would not go there. And guess what I stay at school? One kid is vaccinated, because God knows he can't spread COVID, he's been vaccinated. Y'all know that's why. Everybody sort of sitting in the car, they all five tested positive for COVID-19. Wow, 3 weeks. Tell me somebody tested positive. COVID-19, I lost the mother of the cure. And I think I'm still thinking that they're doing this last, it's BS, and putting on my children is BS, and making up rules as you go is BS. I don't stand for it, and neither is anybody else in this room.
Speaker is Alexis Hughes.
Very short.
maybe that's for next year.
So my name is Alexis Hughes. I'm going to be talking about mass, but also board commitments. I have 3 gorgeous children that you would never be able to tell because those masks cover their beautiful faces that God intended for the world to see. As a former elected member of the board, I realize just how it operates, how thankless it can be, and how you cannot please everyone. I also know that when decisions were made that many disagreed with me, I had to be accountable to those that elected me with the explanations, open dialogue, and factual data. Was it tiring and exhausting? Absolutely. Did it always prove fruitful? No, but that was the job that I chose to accept when accepting a position on a board. This is a part of the job that some members on this board seem to think they do not have to do. Multiple emails from parents ignore no explanations for the choices you are making, like the ones discussed already, and admonishing parents that rightfully want answers from you, our elected officials. I am being in your policy manual. That one of your duties is to advocate for the school system, for employees, and especially for students in all interactions with other governmental entities and the public. This is something we are not seeing. The phrase our hands are tied is being thrown around, that is simply not true. At the last meeting, Mr. Chance advised if you didn't adopt the mask mandate, that Mr. Jenkins with DHHS would make a call to Rock and shut the schools down. This was one of 2 things, an outright lie or grossly misleading. I have emails from Mr. Jenkins stating that this is not the case. Furthermore, the only way I can see that DHHS has any bearing on what you as a board choose to implement is the policy, it's in the policy manual in which a policy was put in place agreeing to temporarily enforce requirements of the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. Currently, DHHS is recommending not requiring masks. It also states in the policy book, you as a board can rescind this agreement with them at any time without their consent. You are using a percent positive to make decisions on masks in schools. This is grossly misleading to the public and to the parents, and it is fear-mongering at best. If you take a look at positive cases and compare them to the actual county population percentage, it would give a truer picture. According to the Stanley County Health Department's website, in Stanley County, there were 784 confirmed positive COVID cases in the last 14 days. That is as of today. Our population as a whole is approximately 62,806 people. This is a 1.24% positive case in our county. You are requiring masks that do not work, go against medical and religious exemptions, create far more danger to our children, which we have heard from the speakers thus far and possibly speakers after me, for a virus with almost 100% survival rate and only impacting 1.24% of 62,000 people. The Constitution of the United States gives us our freedoms, and you as a board are directly violating those freedoms by implementing this mandate. You continually pass the buck and pretend you can't do anything when you actually can. Each and every one of you took an oath when you took office, and it states that you swear you will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States, as well as the Constitution of the state, and faithfully discharge those duties. You have not upheld this oath. There's no state law nor federal law currently mandating masks in our schools. The DHHS cannot shut you down for not mandating masks. It is up to you to stand up for your beliefs and our children and the parents in our district. Make masks optional. If you cannot do this, or you are afraid to do this, or you cannot handle answering parents' questions when we ask, if you do not wish to take a stand when questioned on how to vote and explain yourselves with facts and data, respectfully, you should step down and let those that can handle the pressure step up.
In Shimpall.
Not permitted by policy 23.
I mean, so.
Did last-
Mr.
Mr. Chairman. She last year, Ms. Schimpf.
Ms. Shimpall's last week listed on the Sunday sheet.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the substitution for last year, please.
Thank you, God.
All right. I'm gonna sort this one.
Is there a second to that motion? Okay. Scott? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Okay, those opposed?
Don't want to hear the black woman speak? You don't want to hear the black woman speak about her black child in Oak Grove Simpson, right?
Anything about that policy
Right.
now. Speak, you don't.
And I have the right to speak.
Vote failed.
According to the policy,
Your policy is against my constitutional right. It is no authority here. Not today, not ever. What we're gonna do,
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. What your rules that we follow, we had a speaker who was assigned. When the substitution was requested, I made a motion to allow the substitute speaker, although that is not policy. I had a second, we voted on it, and it did not pass.
every single one of your addresses, I will be serving you all personally with liability documents for my time. You're gonna get an email to you, and since we're gonna make it personal, we can make you personally liable. Matthew, Sabella, it does not matter. So we're doing our part, even though you won't do yours, but I'm new to the world, but you will not see the last of me. You understand?
Thank
We
you.
will work together. You will regret me. And then I will stand and speak to the people who chose for me to speak.
That's right.
So this is my fourth meeting coming here for, you can't hear me? 4 months in a row to know that I taught the system for 30 years. I'm appalled at what's going on here. I'm just really shocked. I can't believe it. And when I went home last month, I said, oh, I told my husband I couldn't sleep all night. Bent the knee to the mattress. And the next thing they're gonna bend the knee to is the vaccine. And that disturbed beyond belief. I'd like to speak, first of all, this TRC test, because that's what PCR test, that's what you're using for all these numbers. Folks, it's not even valid. Mr. Gray said it wasn't valid. He had a false positive. My husband had negatives and he had COVID. This test is not a reliable test, yet you're using those statistics to set up this policy for these masks. And it's just wrong. It makes no sense at all. I won't go over what you told us in the last meeting, because parent just did, and it's not happening. Kids are getting quarantined. They don't have any education going on through the weeks of quarantine. Ms. Gibson, you told us that they would be. You said, I'm voting for the mask because I want my grandchildren. That's not what's happening now at all. This thing is broken, and you're not fixing it, and this is a mess. The West Stanley football team was sent home for 14 days because of a positive COVID test. You know what the note was they got from the coach that afternoon? Go get your shot. If you'll go get your shot, we'll have to finish the season. Now, what does that tell us as parents? What you're pushing is this shot, and it's you don't have to do this if you've had the shot. You don't have to do that. That shot. That's what you're pushing. And you folks had this shot wasn't even tested on animals, but you played by having it used on children. It just, I cannot for the life of me understand it. I didn't watch it, but my daughter was talking about watching the big college football teams that played this weekend. 80,000 plus people in stands, this close to one another, chanting and cheering, and 95% of them didn't have a mask on. But you want to mask our children all the time and give them 13 and 14 minutes to eat their lunch. It actually is inhumane. This is a new variant that's out now, right? The Delta variant. Well, there's another Delta too already. This vaccine you want to give our kids, it's jab. It's not for the Delta. They haven't come up with that booster yet. What good is this shot going to be when there's a new variant out? And it looks like there's going to be another one after that, and another one after that. Are you going to mask our children up forever? I mean, that's what the question is. The effectiveness of this whole thing is not working. I'd like to finish with this statement I heard somebody say back a couple months ago. Your rights are like your muscles. If you don't use them, you lose them. And people take our rights away from us. We don't appreciate that.
Engaging in manifest abuse of discretion in the eyes of the law. Everything that you are doing is against the law. The superintendent knows because I sent him the laws, the federal and state laws of North Carolina in the United States. All of you are aware of it. And a lot of what you're doing is felony for these gentlemen that are police officers should be arresting you right now. But they're conflicted between the people that are supposed to be working for the community and the community themselves. Okay? In a recorded conversation with one of my wonderful mother friends here, that he wouldn't even muzzle his dog for 8 hours, even if it was a, and that is on recording, So you won't muzzle your dogs, but you will muzzle. And it's either putting your career on the line. You are working for it. What are you working for? And I asked him, I gave him, he's supposed to give those questions to you guys, so that you guys can ask us questions.
Just for the sake of the folks that don't know about the agenda here, so. Okay. I would just ask you to go back and look at my statements in the previous meeting. I'll make some additional statements back. The second, the thing about the agenda is that there's the public comments, then there's the superintendent's comments. He's going to speak and share on a number of COVID related issues. And then there's the board member comments. While he's speaking, we also have an opportunity to ask some questions and make comments. And then afterwards, we have the ability to make individual comments as board members. So I just wanted to share that with the public.
I have a question. What's on voting for a few extra minutes for his speak?
Yes.
You don't want to see people here. You just gotta.
This woman sitting right here, her daughter has Down syndrome, and she hasn't even been able to start school yet. You want to explain that? She is in school, and tonight you guys were supposed to announce a teacher, and I've not heard anything about that. So right now we have a substitute, and no one in their PC credentials. And I know that I support what these people are doing for sure. But I feel like these smaller issues, when it comes to one-on-one students, you guys, no one is responding to us, and the emails we get are just repetitive. I came here tonight to hear that my daughter have a teacher that is certified to be her classroom.
We vote on that teacher tonight, Dr. Dennis, and our personnel agenda.
What school, man?
Oh, that must be close to.
What school was that? What's
For Stephen,
Yeah, we did.
nobody's giving us more.
You did for the recommendation.
Yeah.
We have to vote for a closed session because it's not.
In a closed session. Okay.
So it's on that.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. No, it's in public. Yeah.
Because it was.
It's on the consent agenda.
We just voted on it.
They just voted on it. I misspoke. Apologies.
Speech, I didn't hear it.
No, it was a list of that you might not have, but we voted on all the papers.
And we put that out later. That comes to the board minutes.
Okay.
In case they change, we don't put them out at one time because the stuff can fluctuate. It comes out later. And I apologize if I misspoke. So it'll come out later, it comes out with the board minutes later. We don't publish them beforehand, because they have to be approved, we can put them out. Now they were approved, we can get those out. Those minutes come out tomorrow. With all the board minutes. Yes. And if you want to send me an email, I'll give you some. About that.
Thank you, that's dark now.
Okay. All right. So I've got a couple things. First, we do have our school medical assistants that are coming in that we hired. This is the first week some of them start. They don't come in all at once because they were trained at different times, but they will start to begin working. And a majority of their function is going to be, the actual contact tracing and things like that. It takes some of this off the nurses. Some good news, we did meet our projected ADM by the state, which is very important because if we do not meet those numbers, that means we would have to send money back. I just want to thank our social workers and the counselors and everyone for kind of being delicious and finding some of the students who haven't been to school in a while, getting them back into school. But since we've made that, I can see this number sustainable, then we should have, whenever we do get a budget, then we will be budgeted that we are allocated by the state. Last thing before I go into the COVID stuff is I just want to, it's the 20th anniversary, 9/11. All I want to say is remember. I'll leave that at that. As far as the COVID numbers, I just got these in today, and I was asked to present. So, and what I'll do is I'll give you the difference from last week to where we are. As far as the staff quarantine, we're sitting at 73, which is up from 16. Excuse me, if you count all staff, it's 85, which is up from 18 from last week. The students quarantine is 1,149, which is up 731 for last week. Oh, I'm sorry, we're going.
Yeah, that's.
They wrote it down.
Okay, I'm so good. So
So last week with the student quarantine, we're 418, now we're 1149. No, she got the fixed those. You got the old one. She had the.
This is the latest one.
Okay.
This is.
I got the old ones in. All right, cool. So the staff quarantine, the previous week was 57 and, or excuse me, 67 for all, and now we're 85. Students positive, last week we were at 65, now we're at 138. And staff positive, last week we were 18, and now we're down to 10. So those are kind of numbers, a couple of points I was given to make sure you're aware of. Okay, thank you. Effective Monday, August 29th, the health department giving us the benefit of mask mandate and our updated cafeteria strategies allowing us to no longer contact trace cases of students positive in the classroom. However, athletics is not included since masks are in a different protocol. Also, Monday the 29th, we begin implementing a shorter quarantine period of 10 days, as long as individuals are able to mask, distance away from others, and monitor symptoms for the 14th day. Beginning today, we are offering a 7-day quarantine option with a negative PCR on the 5th day, as long as individuals are able to mask, distance away from others, and monitor for symptoms through the 14th day. Most student quarantine are going home with symptoms. The next highest category of quarantine is household positives. Athletics is a big factor in the quarantines thus far. We have 2 cheerleading teams and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 football teams. And those are large spreads impacting our numbers. That's all.
Dr. Sweet, can you repeat that, clarify for me? Now that it will be a 7-day quarantine.
So beginning today, we're offering a 7-day quarantine option. And this option, you have to have a negative PCR on the 5th day of quarantine. And as long as the individuals are able to mask and distance away from others and monitor for the symptoms through the 14 days. So you still have to monitor the symptoms and everything. As long as those symptoms reoccur, your mask and your distance, then you will obey this. Yes, sir.
But remind them that if their student gets quarantined, that there's options where they can get tested. And if they get tested and it's negative, they can come back in 7 days instead of 14 days.
That's exactly right.
Because we don't want them to be wasting at home for 7 days. If they're negative, they might as well come back.
This could be home anyway.
Excuse me. What we have here is, we're working with the health department, we're trying to find more strategies to get kids in. And so what they've been able to do is, again, you know, we had a little glitch in getting to school, so we got the lunch situation solved to where they would allow that not to be like a contact. And then we're working with us to be able to bring down the number of days the students have to quarantine. We're also working on some testing options at the school, and that will be with our healthcare, you know, the new healthcare assistants, medical assistants, I should call them, that we talked about earlier. So we're continuously trying to improve as much as we can with, you know, what we're giving. We're trying to keep our kids in school.
Students will not be tested without permission, though, correct?
Mr. Lau, are we able as board members to bring up motions during our public or our member comment section?
Yes.
We are?
Yes.
Okay.
Hearing what we are doing to reduce that quarantine time. It looks like we have taken into consideration the time as far as we realized that because of quarantines happened during that unmasking lunchtime. And so we.
We had first, when we first started, on the lunchtime, and it was just a misunderstanding. Once we explained and just talking about how that function, then that was taken out of the equation. It took a couple days, but they were not understanding it correctly, and it wasn't their fault. You know, having a conversation, that's not a point of disuse, as far as the decision to send anyone on quarantine.
Chairman Chance, we have to, every 30 days, we have to readdress, we have to vote. Call it
New law, that's correct.
for the new law. With difference that's being presented tonight, then I move to affirm the current resolution as it.
Yes, vote on the floor, is there a second? I second it.
Dr. Lake, second.
What he said. But I would think that.
So there's a motion and a second on the floor, now there's discussion.
I'd like to make an amendment, to the motion. That we revise the, resolution entirely.
Good, okay. All right, second from Mr. Saunders.
Okay, yeah, the revision, so we're in discussion period now on my amendment, correct?
Describe what you want to do.
My revision to the current resolution would be that we immediately change the number that is being used to measure the percent positivity to a percent positive to the Stanley County school system, not Stanley County. By doing so, we also avoid, as one of the public speakers commented, this issue of percent positivity from the county that is directly driven by not a total number, but by the number of people who are being tested, who statistically would be people that are experiencing some type of symptoms to drive them to be tested in the first place. That's number one. Number two, I want to change the quarantine policy so that we are only quarantining children who are symptomatic. Let's see, and then, an additional, quarantine option. I can read the entire thing. I moved to amend the resolution, during the last meeting to base our mask policy on Stanley County Schools population of in-school students and staff affected immediately. Further, in the event the percentage of positive cases rises to 7.9 based on this new measure, the superintendent should address the increase on a slice basis. Furthermore, the quarantine policy should be adjusted to only those students and staff who have been in contact with an individual testing positive for COVID and who are symptomatic. Any student showing COVID-like symptoms of fever will be quarantined for 7 days or until the student can present with no fever and a negative COVID test within 48 hours prior to the return to school. If and when percent positivity climbs 7.9% based on the new measure or above for any one class or school within Stanley County Schools, an action plan should be instituted to address a specific area of spread until the numbers fall below the health department's recommended threshold, which would be 7.9%. You would have to say.
So your amendment is second.
Can I speak?
Speakers. Hang on a minute. Second. It has been seconded. It is now open for discussion. Okay.
Mr. Graves, what you said is totally unfounded, no documentation, anything here. What the community thing is for community transmissions. A lot of the cases are coming from the community, so you have to take that into account, which we have not done. And you can't just say it and it's true.
I'll reply.
Okay.
So my reply is this. First, I wanna just tell you how we got here very briefly. Before the last meeting, we had a work session. And as I said in my comments, at the last meeting, in that work session, we were almost unanimous for making the mask optional. During that meeting, we were presented with a couple of data points, including the new quarantine rules, along with some health department statistics, and some other data that had at least the majority of us, based on the fact that schooling was moving to in-person, in-school instruction only, and there was no remote. That was literally 4 hours, 5 hours before we had our meeting. So the majority of the board at least that passed the resolution at the first meeting, the goal was not, as stated by at least several board members, myself included, was not about the efficacy of the mask. It was about keeping the kids in school due to a discriminatory, biased quarantine policy that was going to quarantine a bunch of kids. Now, I was one of the people that said that this should be temporary and that we should look at ways to minimize the mask usage and maximize in-person learning by looking at the number of this 7.9%. Now, what's interesting, I hate the fact that we had all these quarantines. I never expected that it was going to be as chaotic as it was. The only good thing to come out of the fact that we had this ridiculous number of quarantines was it's proving a point that I'm about to make. And that's this. The number of 7.9% was based on the community transmission rate, as I believe Dr. Leffler correctly pointed out. The issue is that is calculated based on the number of people who are tested and the number of people positive amongst those who are tested. That is not representative, and I'm about to explain with data, that is not representative of what's happening in the school system. So let me give you the data that was presented by the superintendent. For the first week, August 22nd through the 28th, we had 418 students quarantined based on a percent positivity of 65 students and 15 staff. We had 57 staff quarantined. That is 0.08% of the 9,000 students and staff that are in school. Not 50 to 75-year-olds that are being tested, or any age range that's being tested, but the people in school that they're being exposed to, it's 0.08%. Now, that was the first week. And as a result of 0.08% testing positive, we quarantined 5.7% of the kids in Stanley County schools and staff now that are in school. It gets worse. The second week, we went from 418 students quarantined to 1,149. Staff quarantined 73, up from 57. We had 138 students test positive and 10 staff test positive. That is, the number of positivity went from 0.08 to 1.6. Still, well below the 7.9% that this board used But based on the people in the school, not people around Stanley County. And who were tested. It's not of all Stanley County. Everybody didn't get a test the first week and the second week and generate a transmissibility number off of that. It was based on the number of people who were tested. My point is that we went from quarantining 13.7% of the students, or excuse me, 5.27 the first week, to 13.7 the next week. Now, that was a 30% rough increase in students and staff that tested positive in school. We went up to 13.7. That means that next week, if the trend continues, we're gonna have quarantined 25% of our staff and students. And a week later, we are gonna be at 50%. We cannot operate a school system based on those numbers when the majority of the students and staff that have been quarantined are not only asymptomatic, but do not contract COVID. And if they did, as bad as it is to lose 400 students, as one of the other public speakers pointed out earlier tonight, the risk of serious illness or death from COVID for children is almost infinitesimally small. And we are putting the kids through the task of wearing masks with all of the mental health issues that are related to that because of these numbers. I'm simply asking, let's base the number on the real facts, the data from Stanley County schools. That's it. And if we do that, the masks come off and we stay on until the numbers reach 7.9%. But also, we're asking the superintendent, if, let's say, the numbers reach 7.9% at one particular school in the county, in the northern end of the county, does that mean that we're going to put masks on all the kids in the county? I believe the superintendent should have the discretion of dealing with a potential outbreak or rapid rate of increase at the schools by dealing with these situations on a case-by-case basis. And if the number across the system reaches 7.9, I don't know that many parents would show up that would argue that we don't need to do something. Masks might not be the option, but we would obviously have to take measures such as potentially sending kids home for 2 weeks or 3 weeks to stop the spread. But masks have been proven not to be the answer. And even if they were, they're the answer to a 0.003% problem, which I think is unfair.
Mr. Graves, who else has run it like this and is doing this in their school system? See, made this up, what else has it been doing?
Well, we made up the last resolution.
No, so you made this up, totally. What back you have?
Well, first of all, it's okay. It's okay. Look, by the way, look, 2 things. Look, Dr. Leffler, I appreciate him and he means well. So I'm not taking personal offense to this. And I appreciate your comments because we need to have these discussions in public. So the answer is this, is that I'm basing this based on the fact that it makes sense that this policy that I'm proposing would be based on the percentage of positive students within Stanley County. Now, I'm getting the number from. No, hold on, man. Yeah.
If we're in the schools, where are you getting your percent positive from? If you're not getting it from the community numbers.
I'm saying I'm getting the percent positive from the number of students and staff according to Stanley County schools.
That's on there, that's correct.
These get updated every week, every Thursday. Every Thursday. I'm getting the numbers, so what I'm saying is, instead of us guessing, let's use a fixed number that everyone accepts. That's the positive students and staff of Stanley County schools.
I mean,
Any other comments?
One more thing is, if there was anybody else in the country doing it, I could think.
Yeah, here. It's going.
Please, not down.
Presentation where you got the numbers, I can't hear you.
Sure, okay, yeah, no problem. So, and the reason why, Dr. Leffler, is that instead of using as, I hope you'll agree that the percent transmissibility is calculated based on the number of people taking a test. And you can, this is actually in the CDC. If you look it up on Google right now, I can open up the laptop. I actually brought my laptop in case I needed to share it on the screen. Every single day that number changes. The number is based on a percentage of positive tests based on the number of people that were tested. So if you tested 10,000 tomorrow and 1,000 people tested positive, that would be 10%. If I tested 10,000 or excuse me, 5,000 and 500 tested positive, that's 10%. But I've gone from 1,000 to 500, which is cut in half. So we can't go, I would argue, by that number because that number changes based on the number of people who are tested. What doesn't change is the number of students in the school and staff, including child nutrition, including bus. I did not include central office staff. But that number doesn't change. It's approximately 9,000. And based on the numbers that I have here, the first week, August 22nd, 20th, it's just math. If you take 80 people, 65 students, 15 staff, that's 0.08%. Now, on the 28th in Stanley County, the county number, because it changes every day, was 11.3%. At 11.3. So now this week, we've gone to 1.6%, which is still well below that threshold. And so that all I'm arguing is this gives us a real number to base our decision off of. Now, you can argue what the percentage should be, but I think you would agree that this is a safe number to make our calculations off of because it doesn't change based on the number of people who were tested.
But Anthony, most of the cases come out of the community. So
The point was, how is it that we can have a 13.9% community and a 0.08 in the school? And then we go down to 11.3 in the community, but we've gone up to 1.6 in the school. It tells me two things. There's no correlation between the community transmissibility measurement and the number of people testing positive in the school. And it also tells us that the masks don't work. If the masks work as effectively as we would all hope, then that number wouldn't have gone up to 1.6, it would have gone down. That's just a fact.
I have a question.
Sure.
We're not most of that second number sorting activity, we're not all the time.
What was that? I didn't get this.
The second week of quarantines, were most of those not sport related, that's what we said earlier. Those go by a different set of quarantine rules than students in school.
Sure.
Students are
Sure.
quarantine that prepared, so it's like.
Sure, well, no, I mean, it's week to week, it's the same data, but, so,
What was it?
Well, we can break it down by school, let me give you an example, and this is where the problem is.
Sports versus sitting in classroom.
Well, I know, but let's just take elementary schools, because then we can discount the sports.
Okay.
I mean, if we took the sports out, then that would make my point even more, that we have. So, no, it's okay, it's okay. No, I know, I'm not taking it like that.
Okay.
So if let's take Aquadale as an example. these numbers, public numbers. Okay, so these are public numbers. The first week, August 22nd to the 28th, Avenue Elementary School, we had 17 students quarantined, and we had 5 positives. The second week, we had 2 positive, we had 32 quarantined. So if you take a look at these numbers and you break them down, my recommendation is not only that we take a look at the actual positive, that those that test positive, but also we take it on a school by school basis. The superintendent, like if he sees a spike, let's say that the number was at 2%, but a school was at 10%. Obviously, we want to do something. The superintendent needs to do something. So again, my point here is just trying to make a more fair measurement so that we're not trying to hit a moving target.
Any other comments? Question? I will entertain we have a motion second on the floor for the amendments to the current policy or the current resolution. I will call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Well, I think it's fine.
No, you can come back to that. Yeah, the amendment, correct? I did. All those in favor of the amendment, as presented by Mr. Graves, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
Motion carries. So at this time, I will call a vote on the motions presented by Ms. Gibson. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
And the motion carries.
Dr. Leffler.
When you started, I was just gonna ask you to do it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Any comments?
The motion, excuse me. I would like to thank, Albert Simple, and again, congratulate them on their award tonight. I would also like to thank, Ms. Loveland for taking some time to, present, plan, for the quarantine and for your opinion. Appreciate it.
So let's go.
I'm sorry.
People mind if I think.
Also saying that. You know, it's our proud piece, okay? That's wonderful. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. And for our office personnel, our county office personnel that's here, for all of you here, I appreciate that. Thank you for your leadership. Dr. Bennett.
Yeah.
Levi, do you?
Mr. Sorensen?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I put it on the agenda. I've had my license, allow me to share my comments. I'm stuck down about that thing.
Can you speak a little
At the
louder?
last board meeting, I started my stance.
You can't hear.
You said,
Yes.
I started over again.
Yes.
I'm all the time.
People
Ladies and gentlemen, I put it in high tension, running the room tonight. I'm going to all of us, I've been pretty well, share my comments regarding the public charge issue. At the last board meeting, I failed to articulate my stance, and also came across, rudely. I apologize for that. And I used an old expression, it's common for adults to use in front of your kids. I apologize for that. As most of you were, I was initially opposed to the nationality in the school system. I had my reasons, should have tried harder to express this. Fortunately, for me, the last meeting magazine, the Atlanta, recently published a treatise on mandatory minutes, which does a very good job of summarizing my position to this day. The article is entitled "Downsides of Masking Young Students Are Real." I'm not going to say that wants to be done. Y'all know she go with that. But basically, the things I want to point out, the World Health Organization recommends that children 12 and older only wear masks. So that's the WHO, which is supposed to be, capable of the CDC. And specifically advises against asking kids age 5 and under, specifically keep that. Then it talks about the reason I was concrete, young adult, you consider the same thing. Finally, for me personally, it simply goes against the current. We now know that people with Delta variant causes much more evil to adults, especially old folks like myself, with COVID videos. It seems to me that we were choosing to do with the past candidates, is making the kids suffer to protect adults. Adults are counting less than 50% vaccinated. That is not something the best to say. We're putting young kids. That's my amazing antithesis of what everybody people do. Amen. So carry all those that take their books. It is, I'm gonna tell you the truth, it goes against the grain. Last thing I'll say is make no mistake, I know this COVID is. I've lost good friends to it. Lost people, I've known for 30 years to it. And recognize mistakes. 35 years they go to the hospital on the van struggling with it. That's damage, the sales damage, not the rest of the damage, it's hurting my heart. I know it's the world of play, but also we have moral obligation to protect our kids. That's all.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks, and Levi, and Mr. Green, thanks for meeting. I wish more people would have stayed, a little bit. First of all, you're absolutely right, the issue of mental health. And I believe you were the one that pointed out the suicide rate, were you? Okay. So, Mr. Honeycutt, I want to thank you for the comments that you made about the reiterating, as Mr. Green did, the number of pediatric deaths. And also the fact that as of today, there's still no data that shows that the mask will mitigate the spread of COVID. And your point about the positivity rate, which I tried to make unsuccessfully, to the majority of the board, as being a number that's a moving target and not accurate and not reflective of the real situation in the system. John Ledbetter, who I've known since he was a kid and who I know his mom, worked for his mom, who he lost to COVID. You're absolutely right. A number of us did at that previous board meeting say specifically that, and I was one of the ones that said it, that I was voting for that resolution as a stopgap measure to deal, not because I thought that the masks worked. I did not think they worked. I didn't think it then. I don't think it now. And as Mr. Airpot handed out information, if you go from the mask to the vaccinations, there's absolutely, in my opinion, no data to support either. But especially for kids, for children, the fact that it's untested. But you did make a point that Mr. Sorensen just made, and that is about the kids are being punished to protect the adults. And with the mortality rate being what it is, I don't think we can justify that. And I didn't think then, but I did say in the last meeting that I hoped that we would be able to adjust. Actually, I didn't say we hope, I said we would make adjustments. I made a mistake, I should only speak for myself. Right after that meeting, I did start looking at the numbers because we only had a couple hours to make a decision. And the decision was, are we gonna lose a whole bunch of kids to quarantining or not, just go to the mask? I put together an alternate resolution. I requested an emergency meeting, that meeting, I only had one other board member, who agreed to have the emergency board meeting. That's why we waited until today. And the good news was I was able to gather more data between then and now, but I hope, and I know this is gonna be hard for a lot of you to believe, but believe it or not, I know that there's some folks on here on the board that voted for the original resolution to reaffirm it, that don't believe that the masks are stopping the problem. They're genuinely trying to keep kids in school. I just think we're going about it the wrong way. And I think that they don't understand my point about how we can fix the situation, unfortunately. Alexis Hughes, you're right, we're supposed to be advocates for students. That's why we came up with that original resolution. The goal was trying to keep the kids in school because of an unfair quarantine policy. I believe what we've done tonight is we've extended it. Unfortunately, because you can't just move the mask without addressing the quarantine. That's why in my amended resolution, I wanted to adjust the quarantine policy. And then we would be able to remove the mask based on that new calculated number, which hopefully, if we don't have another meeting between now and the next regular monthly meeting, we will, by state statute, revisit this next month, and hopefully I can convince between now and then, majority of the board to, make that adjustment. And Lynn Schiffbach, you're absolutely right, I appreciate your comments. You've been consistently pointing out the facts, and again, I hope that you guys understand that even some of the people who voted for the resolution don't deny the validity of the points that you made, because you guys are absolutely right. Last, it's this, we're gonna have next week another set of data, and I will publish this online, and the week after that, we'll have another set of data. And I think we're gonna see the exact same trend. There will be no correlation between mask usage and the numbers in the schools. There will not be a correlation between the community numbers and the numbers in the schools. And hopefully we'll be able to, as a board, take action. One thing I want to leave you with though is this: a lot of people have directed their frustration at the superintendent and some of the central office. It's not fair to do that because our hands are not tied as a board, but theirs are. This board has put them in this situation, and so he is trying to make the best of a bad situation. So, and he's working his tail off, and the people in the central office, they're trying to do the right thing based on what the board has put them, made them do, and they have. They've done the best they could. Minimize the number of these kids who went home. All of us were frustrated when we got the notifications that kids were being sent home because they took their masks off at lunch. We were infuriated, people in buses taking their masks off. We get it. And so hopefully between now, next month, or next month at the latest, we'll be able to fix this. And if somebody comes up with a better way of doing it, better than what I suggested, I'm ready to hear it. Thank you.
Yes.
Meeting will be Tuesday, October 10th, 7 p.m. in the common meeting room. Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no.
You know what I'm saying? You got a very